Now, if you're new to financial history, markets, or want a structured way to learn, let me introduce you to a professional trading system designed for traders who want accuracy, structure, and confidence. This platform combines advanced indicators, actionable signals, and step-by-step guidance to help you make better decisions across Forex, crypto, stocks, and indices. If you're ready to trade smarter and more efficiently, visit the link in the description or my bio now to access the full system.
The future in these routes will bring us fortune beyond measure. The East Indies are ours for the taking. We must act now before the others do.
Imagine you're a small investor in London in 1720. You've heard about this miraculous company promising trade riches with the Spanish Main, an exotic dream of gold, silver, and tropical monopolies. Shares are soaring. Everybody's buying. Then, in a matter of weeks, the price collapses and you lose your life savings. But here's the twist. It wasn't just small investors. Nobles, ministers, even scientists got burned. In fact, one of Britain's greatest thinkers, Isaac Newton, it is said lost a fortune. What if I told you this wasn't simply a wild gamble, but a carefully constructed financial trap? A scheme that used government debt, insider deals, monopoly rights, and mass hysteria to trigger the first great stock market crash. And more importantly, what if the same patterns keep repeating in our era? In this video, we will unpack the story of the South Sea Company and the famous South Sea Bubble of 1720. We'll explore how it rose, why it collapsed, who got hurt, and what lessons it holds for today. If you think you know about bubbles and crashes, stay with me, because the deeper you dig, the stranger it gets. Before we dive into the saga, we need to understand the backdrop, the financial systems, the people, the promise. During the early 18th century, Britain had spent heavily in wars, especially the War of the Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1713. The national debt was huge, interest bills mounting. Enter the South Sea Company, created in 1111 under an Act of Parliament. Its original purpose was framed as to consolidate and manage part of the national debt in exchange for trading rights. A key figure in the founding of the company was Robert Harley, 1st Earl of Oxford, who was involved in negotiating with Spain and in Parliament. The company was granted by treaty, the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, a monopoly contract, the so-called Asiento de Negros, the right to supply roughly 4,800 slaves annually to Spanish America for 30 years. But here's the twist. Even with that monopoly, the real trading profits turned out to be modest. The promise was vastly outsized. And alongside this commercial veneer, the South Sea Company was increasingly acting like a financial institution, managing government debt, issuing shares, and fomenting speculative frenzy. So the stage is set. A war-weary nation, bullish investors, an exotic trade promise, and a company mixing public debt with private profit. What could go wrong? In 1711, Parliament created the South Sea Company. The government transferred part of its debt to the company in return for the company taking over interest payments. In 1713, the Treaty of Utrecht awarded Britain the Asiento, the monopoly over slave trade to Spanish America. The company paid the government a large sum for the rights. At this early stage, optimism ran high. The idea of cutting out Spain's monopoly of trade and tapping into the riches of South America seemed plausible. However, the trade didn't explode as envisioned. Spain allowed only limited trade and exacted payments. The economic reality of Atlantic colonial trade proved uneven. While trade lagged, the company offered share conversions. Holders of government debt could swap into stock, creating a link between public finance and speculation. The share price began to rise, and the company cultivated confidence, including naming King George I as governor in 1718. The seeds of the bubble were planted. Debt being turned into equity, monopoly rights promised, and the share price becoming the metric of success, not trade profits. In 1719, the company proposed to take over even more of the national debt from the government, using its stock issuance as the mechanism. Investors and speculators picked up on this as a growth story. More debt moved into the company equals more future profit for shareholders. This idea triggered something important. People began seeing the company less as a trade venture and more as a money machine, where rising share prices themselves were the profit. And by the end of 1719 into 1720, speculation was primed to explode. The hook was set.
At the start of 1720, share price of the South Sea Company was around £128.5 in January. But by July or August, shares had soared to over £1,000. This meteoric rise was fueled by the conversion of government debt into shares, making shareholding fashionable, effective marketing. The company listed prominent people, propagated stories of gains and monopolies, and the speculative mania. If you didn't buy, you were missing out. Investors ranged from aristocrats to middle-class joiners. Newspapers, pamphlets, and broadsides promised huge returns. At the same time, the company supported other speculative ventures. Many bubble companies sprung up, often with little substance, but riding the wave of fever. What's critical here? The actual trade profits of the South Sea Company were never enough to justify these valuations. The promise of future monopoly and rising share value had overtaken underlying business. By summer, the hype peaked. For a time, the company seemed unstoppable, but increasingly, the warnings appeared. Some insiders began taking profits. Rumors circulated about directors selling shares quietly. It is in this region that the plot of our story thickens. How could a scheme built on debt conversion and monopoly rights become a vehicle for disaster? The answer lies in the breaking point.
The inquiry revealed that company directors had had large sums confiscated, assets redistributed to victims. The national economy was hurt. Public trust in financial markets and joint stock corporations was shaken. Many people concluded that stock speculation was inherently risky and perhaps immoral. In June 1720, ironically during the boom, the Bubble Act was enacted. It forbade the establishment of joint stock companies without a royal charter. The aim was to curb speculative companies. This act would hamper British financial innovation for decades and illustrates how regulation often follows, as opposed to anticipates, a crisis. The South Sea Company itself continued to exist until 1853, albeit in a much diminished role, largely managing government debt rather than wild trade. Historians reflect that the episode erected the notion of a stock market crash for good.
The Bubble Act tried to shut down new companies, but did not address underlying investor behavior or the link between debt and equity. It was a blunt instrument. In other words, stopping the symptom, not the disease. The government's bailout-ish response restored confidence, but arguably set the stage for future episodes by signaling that the system would be rescued when it broke. When investors believe, if things go bad, the state will step in, risk-taking increases. Despite the damage, the allure of quick riches via shares remained. The South Sea bubble became a cautionary tale, but one repeated. In our modern era, we see financial engineering, derivatives, leverage, securitization, that has echoes of the debt conversion mania of the South Sea era. Glass half full opportunity becomes glass ready to shatter. From tech stocks to crypto to SPACs, retail investor mania, media hype, everyone's getting rich sentiment. E.g., the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s or the crypto frenzy of the 2020s. In some cases, assets climbed many times over only to collapse, just as the South Sea Company rose 8 to 10x in months before collapsing. In modern context, some cryptocurrency tokens rose 10 to 100x in months and then collapsed similarly. The multiplier may differ, but behavior is the same. If you think that kind of crash can't happen now, think again. The architecture may differ, digital versus trade monopolies, derivatives versus stocks, but human psychology hasn't changed. The South Sea bubble is as much psychology as finance.
The story of the South Sea bubble ends not with a clear moral, but with an open question. We may scorn the greed and madness of 1720, but can we honestly say modern markets are immune? The same traits, excess leverage, debt-engineered growth, speculative frenzy, still exist. The next crash may look different, but the bones are the same.
Now, if you're new to financial history, markets, or want a structured way to learn, let me introduce you to a professional trading system designed for traders who want accuracy, structure, and confidence. This platform combines advanced indicators, actionable signals, and step-by-step guidance to help you make better decisions across Forex, crypto, stocks, and indices. If you're ready to trade smarter and more efficiently, visit the link in the description or my bio now to access the full system.